This is the Farm Monitor. For over 50 years, your source for agribusiness news and features from around the Southeast and across the country, focusing on one of the nation's top industries, agriculture. The Farm Monitor is produced by one of the largest general farm organizations, the Georgia Farm Bureau. Now here are your hosts, Ray DeLesio and Kenny Bergamy.
As always, we are humbled to be in your living room, your phone, your tablet, your computer maybe. Wherever you're watching us, thank you for tuning into the Farm Monitor.
Yes, it is an honor and pleasure to be with you, so sit tight because there is a lot on the docket. Coming up, discover the incredible journey of Georgia cotton and the entrepreneur turning local cotton into stylish garments, resulting in economic growth to rural Georgia. From retirement to gold awards, discover the remarkable journey of Georgia's olive pioneers at Five Otters, a story of resilience, innovation, and taste that's turning heads worldwide.
And then later, he is not your average chef. He is also a Georgia Farm Bureau Young Farmers and Ranchers leader. The story of Cam Floyd and how he uses farm-fresh ingredients to advocate for agriculture. All this and more starts right now on the Farm Monitor. Well, the Georgia National Fair is now in full swing, and this year, attendees are getting a first-hand look at a new exhibit designed to showcase Georgia's cotton industry. To the Georgia Grown Building we go, and John Holcomb with more on the Seed to Shirt exhibit.
Cotton is certainly big business here in Georgia, and this new exhibit inside the Georgia Grown Building at the Georgia National Fair is aimed at making it even bigger by showcasing the value of cotton grown here in the state and hopefully benefiting those that produce it.
One of the great things about Georgia agriculture, it's the #1 industry in the state, but it could be by far and away the #1 industry if we could conceive of and develop ways to add value to Georgia agricultural products, retain more profit in the hands of those who produce. We could have an even far greater impact in terms of employment, economic activity, and whatever. So cotton's a great example, We grow some of the best cotton in the world. We're very good at it, but we have no capacity within the state to use that cotton.
However, as Bridges explains, that has changed thanks to Zeke Chapman, owner of Magnolia Loom, a company dedicated to producing shirts made of 100% cotton that's grown in Georgia.
This exhibit is a sort of an experiential embodiment of what has happened in the last few years. So we have a young entrepreneur from rural Georgia, from Sandersville, who has taken it upon themselves to buy cotton from Georgia farmers and produce garments right here in the state that reflect the use of our products, adding value to Georgia cotton in a way that helps the farmer, helps a small upstart business created by a young entrepreneur from rural Georgia. It definitely helps economic development in that small town of Sandersville. And so that's what this exhibit is about, is us demonstrating to the people who come through the fair that we can add value to Georgia agricultural products in a way that benefits everyone.
And according to Zeke, he hopes the exhibit will help with rejuvenating the textile industry here in the state. As he says, one of the biggest challenges is the fact that not all of the parts of the shirt making process are done here in Georgia.
Doing what we do isn't easy. Finding the supply chain that we have has been really tough. Learning the garment industry as a whole has been really hard. To know that cotton is spun into yarn and then knit and then finished and then cut and sewn and garment dyed. There's a lot of different steps in what we do, and part of why we're doing this is to bring that supply chain back to the state of Georgia. It was here years ago. Our goal is to see that come back. Right now our cotton's grown in Georgia and our sewing is done in Georgia, and our goal is to continue to move parts of that supply chain back to the state of Georgia.
In the end, however, the most important thing they hope to achieve is just making that connection to agriculture with anyone that comes to the fair by telling the important story of Georgia cotton.
I think it's important for individuals, especially those coming to the fair, to know what agriculture is about, where their food comes from, where their fiber comes from, where their shelter comes from. And this is an awesome opportunity for us to tell that story, that seed to shirt story of how cotton started and how it ends up in processing to the shirt that you have on your back.
Reporting in Perry for the Farm Monitor, I'm John Holcomb.
Well, how about this for impressive? A sold-out crowd at the Newton County Ag Center, which recently hosted its very first professional rodeo. It featured some of the top cowboys in America showing off their skills in an event designed to not only strengthen the 4-H and FFA programs here in Georgia, but also to promote the agricultural industry as a whole to an underserved audience.
Everything that's profit here comes right back to the Newton County Ag Center here to benefit the FFA camp and the Ag Center. So all the money stays right here at this facility where we're at. There's a lot of kids tonight that will get their first touch of agriculture in their life, whether it's they see a tractor, they see a lawnmower, they see a horse or a cow. That's their first opportunity at a way of life that I take for granted every day.
While Georgia may not be the foremost state associated with olive oil production, it still boasts award-winning establishments like Five Otters in Dodge County. Damon Jones explores the secrets behind their remarkable success and provides an update on this year's olive crop performance.
While it might be relatively new to the scene, olive production here in Georgia has taken off over the past decade, with the state accounting for more than 900 tons of olive oil every year. And that growth in popularity can be attributed to farms like Five Otters in Eastman, which is run by a pair of first-generation farmers.
I saw the fact that Georgia was trying to have a new industry with olives, and I read about it in the Farmers and Consumers Bulletin and saw pictures of the orchard that they were talking about. And I thought, I want to do that. I was retired and I needed something to do, and I love to learn. And I love olive oil. Oh my goodness, how could I forget the most important part?
Even though this year's crop was affected by the late winter freeze, there is somewhat of a silver lining to the decrease in production.
About 60 gallons, which is really low. However, it's a lot higher than it was last year, so I'm very, very thankful. I had some large olives and some small olives because I was told I had double flowering. So there's a good thing about small olives, so I wasn't concerned about the taste. The smaller the olive, the better the taste is going to be for my taste buds.
That taste was recently recognized with a gold award from the prestigious NYIOOC World Olive Oil Competition. It's an honor that literally left her at a loss for words.
Yeah, I was just silenced, okay, because it was my second harvest. You have to do everything almost perfectly. So getting that gold award was, I can't explain it.
Unlike many of the larger operations, Five Otters handpicks their crop and allows for a little more spacing between the trees in order to maximize pollination.
The pruning process is extremely important. These trees pollinate by wind, which is why I like to prune them where they're open, kind of conical-like in this inside. It's kind of like close to, but not quite like a peach tree. That way the wind gets through it.
Even though starting up an operation like this on your own might seem daunting, Cobb Flanagan says it is something she really embraces and thinks others should also look into.
I would highly encourage it. I mean, you might run into some hurdles, but get over that hurdle. And just remember, when you first started your other career, you probably had some hurdles. You reach forks in the road and you go one way or the other. It's the same with farming here. Do I do this kind of tree or do I do that kind of tree? Do I try this one or try that one? How's the pruning working for me? If you like research, farming. If you like to watch things grow, farming. If you like to eat, farming.
Reporting from Dodge County, I'm Damon Jones for the Farm Monitor.
This leader of young farmers is not only an advocate for agriculture, he is also an accomplished chef and entrepreneur, bringing farm-to-table cuisine to new levels of deliciousness. Get ready to be impressed by his talent both in and out of the kitchen when the Farm Monitor continues.
They say you should never judge a book by its cover. Well, Cam Floyd, who is chairman of the Georgia Farm Bureau Young Farmers and Ranchers Committee for Douglas County, is one of those books. His cover, the tattoos, say nothing about his love of farming and agriculture or that he even considers himself a farmer. But he is, and a good one at that. And those tattoos, at least some of them, paint a picture of why he became one.
You know, I think my biggest thing for tattoos and who I am is I don't really blend into certain environments. And that kind of helps to my benefit, as I'm able to walk through and actually be heard and be listened to, because I'm not who that they expect to walk in the door and to just talk about agriculture and things. And so for my story, it definitely lends to who I am as a person now. My tattoos have grown and developed over the years into different styles, and it kind of, we say half my body is completely different. One is kind of black and white, is like my past, and then going into the right side of my body is all full color. And I kind of purposely did it that way.
And to understand the man and leader Cam has become, it's important to know a little bit about his past. His youth was a troubled one. He was in and out of group homes, and by the age of 17, found himself facing the challenge of a lifetime: fatherhood. That's when Cam says he buckled down, eventually landing a job at the Cracker Barrel in Noonan, Georgia. Turns out that job as a dishwasher would lead to a successful career in the culinary and restaurant industry.
I don't know, I took it serious and wanted to grow, and started to see that even though the paychecks were minimal, they were able to take care of me and my son, and was able to pay my bills and still be in high school at the time. And I moved up to prep cook, I moved up to line cook, and then line lead, and then I discovered, well, this is something I'm good at. Like, why not continue to try and develop this? I'm happy here, I'm good at this, at least I think I was. And it was just something that came natural.
I'll say, these days, Cam is the culinary director and partner at Sue & Sue Restaurants, a group that owns a wide variety of establishments, including Sweet Auburn Barbecue, both in Atlanta and now McDonough. However, it was that first job after Cracker Barrel where Cam says he became obsessed with agriculture and the farm-to-table concept. That place, Serenbe Farms.
That's where I met my wife. My wife is still there to this day. And I went there seeing this farm and this restaurant, and I was like, it's just fine dining concept in the middle of nowhere in Chattahoochee Hills. And I experienced that they've got this farm, they've got these farm-to-table procedures. And so there's a lot of restaurants out there that are farm-to-table, quote unquote, but in reality, we're not growing pineapple groves, we're not growing limes and those things here in this area, but there's an amazing amount of agriculture and farmers in Georgia that I think my obsession has been, if you're a chef, you have the #1 dramatic input and effect on these farmers in Georgia, you know? But it's finding multiple farmers. We don't really have the landscape, we don't really have the footprint for one farm in Georgia to supply for one restaurant. So why not find 5? They might all have different potatoes, but support all 5, and you can have a potato from all 5. You know, and so that's kind of been my mission, is how do we find these small farms that are trying to make it and push them into agriculture and then into the restaurants.
One way he's hoping to find those farms is through networking. And let me tell you, Cam's network is pretty extensive. He's active on social media, the legislative arena, school classrooms, and of course, his communications with young farmers throughout the state. In May of 2021, he and a business partner started a nonprofit called May's Farmers Market, a platform with the goal of showcasing small farmers to the public. And if all that wasn't enough, Cam routinely hosts harvest days and farm tours, as well as something he calls the Homestead Series. That's also where Cam teaches the art and skill of processing livestock.
This is more than just having 100 acres, producing a row crop or producing an animal. How can we focus on agriculture? How can we support these farmers? And I think that's my biggest focus, is building a team to support those farmers that have 100 acres. Because a lot of times they're out there in the middle of nowhere in their own. They're on their own. They don't have as many resources or connections until they go to a Farm Bureau office, you know, or some of the other avenues they go through. And so that's kind of been my focus, is not only do you not have to be a farmer with a full-scale operation to care about ag. You can purely just involve yourself in any capacity, and you can start by assisting. And even if you just drive and bring them some seeds, that helps. Even if you can just speak up for them at a Publix, at a Publix parking lot with another stranger. Hey, have you ever heard of this farm? Love Farm is doing some amazing things. Those little small touches really build a bigger impact, and that's kind of what I'm focusing on.
He is certainly determined to make a difference, isn't he? Well, don't forget, if you missed any part of Cam's story or others on today's program, you can still see them in their entirety at our YouTube channel, The Farm Monitor. Once there, you're going to find everything from instructional videos to research, as well as some very emotional human interest stories. And best of all, the archive dates all the way back to 2009.
Time for our final break. When we come back, it is a fascinating look at the world of pecan farming, from pruning towers to picking. This producer shares his secrets for success and the challenges that he faces in the year-round endeavor.
From genomic technology to robotic milking systems, electronic identification tags to activity monitors, innovation is everywhere in the dairy business today. Progress made over the past decade has been remarkable. Just ask Dr. Jason Osterstock. He's Vice President of Precision Animal Health for Zoetis.
It's hard to anticipate where we are today. I think one of the things for me as a scientist, the way we thought we would utilize the technology in 2010 is completely different than how we're leveraging it today.
Holstein Association USA and Zoetis have had a relationship for the better part of a decade. The partnership has expanded the utility of genomic technology, and it adds value to U.S. registered Holstein genetics.
As we think about genetics, it's really a very important component of how we'll respond to sustainability challenges moving forward. In many respects, the U.S. dairy industry and the Holstein cow is amongst the most sustainable producing animals in all the world.
DNA samples collected from calves on the farm lead to data and predictions that are quite precise through Clarified Plus genomic tests. And now you can perform many of the needed steps through a mobile app, taking photos and scanning barcodes with a smartphone.
Our ability to look at each animal, identify in real time what's her risk for condition X or Y, what's her potential, what's her future contribution to the herd, what's her value to the herd, so that each and every day, in real time, we know who needs to be where, what's the right next decision, and it's seamlessly integrated across all of the data sources within a given dairy.
Genomic testing is also a gateway for registered Holstein breeders to incorporate other technologies. Some of them include sex-sorted semen, in vitro fertilization, embryo transfer, and using beef bulls on dairy females to produce calves that are destined for feedlots.
To execute any of those correctly, you need to have sound information so that you're deploying those technologies in the right animals.
So what's in store for the next decade? With the registered Holstein cow's natural ability to efficiently produce high volumes of quality milk, the opportunities are endless.
If she can stay healthy and her milk goes in the tank, that's absolutely integral to us connecting her consumption of feed into consumable protein. I think we're also going to see our ability to select directly for feed efficiency, our ability to select for cows that produce naturally less methane. So those are all going to unlock opportunities for us.
For Holstein Association USA, I'm Bob Cervera.
Finally this week, talk about putting in the work. Try growing pecans.
A lot of hard work at that. Jennifer Parsing caught up with a pecan farmer who was not only cleaning up after a storm, but also preparing for the annual harvest.
Now we're standing in an earlier variety that generally comes off, September 20th to October 1st.
This orchard is just about 12 years old, and Kason Anderson says he thinks they're the perfect size tree, producing well and limited limbs shed most of the time.
So this is a pruning tower. We use it to prune trees to get up high, but today we're using it to cut broken branches from a storm.
In the next 2 months, Kason hopes to be harvesting the pecans in this orchard. But first, he needs to clean up the rows.
There's so many trees down, so many limbs down, you couldn't drive down the road to do spraying or mowing or anything.
He says when storms roll through, the trees will shed their limbs and create barriers.
Yes, our equipment has come a long way. More operator comfort, faster, more efficient. Common misconception about pecans would be that we only work October to Christmas. We really work January to December.
He says summertime is their busiest season because of thunderstorms and tree upkeep.
If it rains a lot, you have to spray more. Just like you have a leak in your house, what happens? Mold. So when it rains every other day, trees get disease and mold, and then the grass grows 3 feet tall.
Once they finish cleaning up this mess, they'll start preparing for harvest time.
We'll mow the grass as low as we can and have the irrigation cut off, and we drive through with a machine that looks like a giant tricycle, and we go up and we grab the tree trunk, and it begins to vibrate and makes the pecans fall down. We then go through with what we call sweepers, which is basically a giant push broom, and we make the pecans into nice straight little rows, then run a harvester like a giant vacuum cleaner, and it'll somewhat separate the sticks, the leaves, to where we just have pecans. They get placed into a trailer that goes to a processing plant where they clean, grade, size.
So how many pecans do you typically get off an orchard like this?
If you could pick up 1,200 to 1,500 pounds every year, I think you're doing well.
He says tree production goes in waves from year to year.
If you ran a marathon, you're probably going to want to take it easy the next morning. So if a pecan tree had a very heavy crop to support and feed, the following year is going to be a little bit lighter.
Did you know that pecan trees can live to 100 years old?
So when you plant a pecan tree, it's technically 2 years old when you plant it. It looks like a broomstick with roots. You may have a few pecans in the 3rd, 4th, 5th year, but really you probably won't shake and gather a crop until 5, maybe 6, 7 years. I found this pecan on the outside of a row, and you can see how it's not very healthy looking, and this is the exact same thing as like leaving your lunchbox closed up over the weekend, or you have a leak in your house under the sink. So that's basically mold, fungus, and these are healthy pecans. As you can see, there is a pecan forming.
Kaysen has a passion for what he does, and he has some advice for future pecan growers too.
Invest so much time into learning. Find somebody who will steer you right in the community, somebody that you can get advice from, and you can help them and you can learn from them.
In Peach County, reporting for the Farm Monitor, I'm Jennifer Parson.
Jennifer, thanks so much. Now, before we go, friendly reminder that for all the latest ag news regarding food, recipes, and what's happening on Georgia farms, be sure you check out all of our social media platforms, including farm-monitor.com.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time right here on the Farm Monitor. Stay safe and have a great week.